And so I'd like to talk about how to make this a great volunteer experience for you and also make sure that you're delivering great value to your client. So here's some suggestions. Today you're going to be meeting your teams for the first time, and so here's some ideas to kick off your project. This is a volunteer gig. No one is going to have great personal glory from this or, amass great personal wealth from this. So probably you volunteered for a variety of different reasons. It might be an interest in the client organization. It might be an interest in the content of the project. Or maybe you just wanted to meet some other GSB alums. So today when you introduce yourselves to the rest of your team, I suggest you share a little bit about why you joined this particular ACT project and also what you hope to get out of this experience. So share your expectations with the team. If you do, there's a greater chance they'll be met. Secondly, be realistic about your time commitment. There is an expected volunteer time commitment of 10 to 15 hours per month, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in the midst of work and kids and everything else, that does add up. So if you are unable to meet that time commitment, bow out gracefully, because it will be very disruptive to your team, and not to say demoralizing to the rest of your team for you to drop out in the middle. And it happens on every project, so know yourself well enough to know whether you can really be a member of the team that everyone can count on. We had this happen just on the team that we're just finishing up. Person called after the first meeting and said, you know what, I'm 6 weeks into a new job. I thought I could do it. I don't think I can. And, it was fine. And we were all grateful that she did it early, and we moved on. It was great. Third, I think this is very important, is to set regular in-person meetings. In this day and age of email, it is very tempting to not actually ever meet, but 80% of communications is nonverbal. So have in-person meetings. And your team will have to decide what regular means. My teams have usually met either every week or every other week. Once a month is not enough, in my opinion. So set a regular schedule. If you pick a regular day, you don't have to spend 10 minutes of every meeting deciding what day you're going to meet next time. So try to do that. I'm a big fan of tools and whatever artificial devices you need to set up to make sure that you reduce the administrative headache of trying to coordinate 8 people's schedules. So the first thing is to set up a shared workspace. Yahoo Groups is a popular one and free. It's a place where you can put all your team documents, make sure it's accessible by the web. It has facilities to make sure all the team communications are all in one place, so if you have to miss a meeting, you're able to catch up quickly. You should have team contact information up there, which these days usually includes a cell phone and an alternate cell phone, when you can be easily reached. Particularly for the spring round, if you're going to be off on a 3-week summer vacation, let your team know you're not going to be reachable at that time. Or if you're never available on Tuesday nights, if you know something about your schedule, put that up there so it's all in one place. While I'm a fan of in-person meetings, we are all busy people. We're not going to be able to make every meeting. Use the conference calling facility. We do. Make sure there's a speakerphone available, so if somebody can participate remotely, they can just call in and do that. And use email effectively in between meetings to communicate. Meeting minutes. We're all very responsible people in our jobs, but you'd be surprised at how far volunteer items fall on your list of to-dos. So, set up meeting minutes so that people who miss meetings can, again, quickly find out what's going on and they don't have to call the team leaders and track them down. There's a list of action items with clear assignments on who's doing what by the next meeting, so it's very clear to everyone on the team who's going to be delivering what. And if you can't do it, let your team leaders know so your team leaders can then reallocate accordingly and keep everything moving. Use templates and frameworks. I think it's great. ACT has put up these general templates up there, but I'm also talking about for the work. So if you have interviews that you need to conduct, for example, spend a little extra time to design the templates. Everybody's asking the same 10 questions, and you'll have some consistency in results. Also, use smaller breakout groups. It is not efficient to write a document with 8 people in the room. It just doesn't work. So get a couple people to volunteer and go offline and do the first draft. It's pretty easy to edit as a group. And last but not least, a subject near and dear to my heart, and I will have to get some shortly, is food. You know, if you're like most teams, you'll probably end up meeting in the evening after people's work schedules, and there's no fun having an hour-and-a-half meeting while you're starving. So you just do not do your best work. So figure that out. If you're going to meet at a cafe or somebody's house or whatever, just make sure people have sustenance while they're working.
But we found wine may be actually more important than food.
Absolutely. The ACT Volunteer Committee has discovered that wine works extremely well to enhance the quality of the output. Okay. ACT wine, Stanford wine, right?
Right, that's right. What we should be giving out at the training.
That's right. Next, I have some ideas for how to keep this project going. This is a 4 to 6 month haul for most of you. You're on the full team projects. You know, again, it may not sound like a lot, 10 to 15 hours, 4 to 6 months, but after the initial enthusiasm, there's what we call the sag in the middle. So, you know, people will suddenly get busy and maybe the project isn't as interesting as you thought it was or whatever, but the point is you've still promised the client a result. So how do you keep the project going? Well, first of all, your team leaders have spent some time coming up with a brilliant work plan, hopefully. So if you're feeling like you don't know where the project is going, go look at the work plan and make sure you're still on track. But also be flexible about changing that work plan. It is not uncommon. This happened on the project that we're just finishing now, where after the first phase of research and investigation, what you plan for the second phase doesn't make sense anymore. So be flexible about changing the work plan to make sure you're meeting the client's needs and adjust accordingly. It is a relatively short amount of time, again, even though it's 4 to 6 months, the amount of time per month is not that high, so you'll need to play to your team's strengths and skills. So today, you know, find out who the quant jock is on your team, you know, who the marketing expert is, who has a lot of nonprofit experience. You'll find you have a lot of resources on your team. Try to use those resources well, but because it is a volunteer project, you can indulge everyone's interests as well. For example, Tony and Michael, for example, on my current team, we're very interested in helping our client look at their website and make some recommendations on how they structure that website. Not in the scope of the work plan, but it's going to be a fantastic bonus deliverable for the client. So check in frequently. I try to check in every meeting on where people are in terms of their commitment to the project, their commitments to other things in their lives, and if their schedules have changed. So try to just see where your team is and make sure that that you reallocate accordingly and be willing to do that. Also, divide and conquer, not only from a workload standpoint, but also I really believe in a concept of everyone has a shared responsibility for the team, not just your team leaders. You have, you know, a couple of individuals who have stepped up and agreed to take those titles. We've actually talked about changing it to team facilitators to make that more clear, but really everyone has that responsibility. And the first way you can do that is be a fully participating team member. If you have an opinion, express yourself, don't hold back. But also look out for your team members and take care of each other. There are people who are quieter than others. Notice that. Make sure they get, you know, floor time as well. If somebody seems off during a meeting and it's, you know, your team facilitators haven't noticed, you know, take the responsibility of asking what's going on with that person. And give your project leader some slack. They have a lot of additional responsibilities. Who are the project leaders in this room? So my personal appreciation to you for stepping up. They have probably taken on double the time commitment, and they have the responsibility of herding cats, of making sure all of you guys actually show up to meetings and actually get the project done, and making sure that the client is happy through the whole process and all that communication is going well. So when it comes to volunteering for tasks, give them a little bit of slack, because when somebody flakes on the team, it's undoubtedly going to be your project leaders who are going to have to figure out how to make sure that gets done. And then, last but not least, so you saw my last slide already. You know, for all the same reasons that Stanford was a great place to go to business school, I mean, you guys have undoubtedly some, you know, wonderful people on your team. So don't forget that. So have a lot of fun. I mean, this is a volunteer gig. If you're not having fun, there's something that's not quite right. Celebrate the team's accomplishments. You will hit some defined milestones during your project and celebrate them when you hit them. And network. This sounds kind of funny, but you know, actually ACT teams are a great place to network because you have actually gotten to know people and you've seen them work. So it is a great place to network. I got a call earlier this year from a team member who was on a team like 4 years ago. And she called, she said, gee, Sen, I just figured out we're in the same industry and we do the same thing. Can you help me with this consulting project? And so we just concluded a very successful consulting project together. And shame on me for not making it clearer to her, 4 years ago. Who knows how many we could have done by now. And get to know each other personally. You'll also find some great people that you will like to keep as friends in the future. So it is no one's responsibility but your own to make the most of this experience. So I suggest you do it.